The bucking horse. There are many reasons why a horse might buck, either on the lunge or under saddle. Bucking is when the horse lowers its head between its knees and pushes off both hind legs to propel its hindquarters into the air. It will then generally follow up with raising the front end off the ground to get propulsion to push off the hindquarters again to continue bucking. A single kick up out of the hind legs is not a buck, it is simply a pig root. So be aware that there is a difference. The fresh horse. The fresh horse can throw in a buck because it's happy and full of energy and is basically just feeling good, or it might buck because it's devious and it's testing you out to see what it can get away with. This horse is an example of the fresh horse. He has been out of work because it's been wet and he is excited and happy. So I have brought him out on the arena literally to get all of his exuberant energy out of him before I try and ride him. So he is giving a good example of bucking, rearing, pig rooting, and flying leaps. However, this horse is actually trained to medium, and once he gets this exuberant energy out of his system, he will be behaving under saddle. However, if I didn't put him on the lunge and just keep asking him to go forward when he exhibits this behaviour, it could then carry through to under saddle and be problematic. So even though he is fresh and full of energy, he doesn't want to just run on. He wants to jump and leap and buck. So as his handler, it is my job to keep encouraging him to go forward until such point he calms down and starts listening to me. And you'll see he turns into me because he's looking to stop. So my job is to get him going until he responds to my voice commands. Allowing him to, I can't stop him from bucking, but I can just keep working him until he understands the behaviour has to stop before we finish. Now you'll see that he's starting to relax and listen to me and make some calmer transitions, which is the goal of this session. With this horse's athletic ability, it could be dangerous for me to ride him without giving him a lunging session first. So it's not a matter of him misbehaving on the lunge and then he'll behave under saddle. He needs to get rid of that exuberant energy and start to listen to me from the ground so I am then safe to ride him. The sawhorse. A sawhorse will buck to tell you that there's something wrong, and then it's your job to get to the bottom of the issue so the situation doesn't escalate. There are many reasons why the horse might be sore. Bad saddle fit, a sore back, ulcers. Even having sore feet can make a horse buck because it's uncomfortable on its hooves. An unbalanced rider can cause the horse discomfort and to consequently buck. A sore horse has learnt that it can get away with bucking, may continue to buck after the problem has been resolved because it doesn't realise the problem has now disappeared, or because the bucking has escalated from being pain relating to being behavioural and habitual. Behavioural bucking can be because the horse has learned when it bucks, it gets its own way. And so the behaviour has then escalated. I've slowed down this bucking sequence so you can see clearly how he pushes off both back legs together in the canter strike off and pushes out of the outside shoulder to complete the buck. Because I'm on the ground, I am able to pull him up and stop him. However, this would be much more difficult under saddle. Now that I've regained control, I am going to ask him to move forward again. The second buck actually occurs whilst he is in the canter. The sequence is the same, and again I have trouble controlling him from falling out of that outside shoulder by trying to stop him, which is why he's now spun around towards me, and I have to just keep moving towards him and get back behind the shoulder to urge him forward. This horse did actually have a sore back, which has now been addressed. However, the bucking behaviour is still there because it has escalated to being behavioural. He has a history of turfing his previous rider off from bucking, so he has learnt that he can get away with this behaviour. We now need to make this horse understand that this behaviour is unacceptable and will not be tolerated. So when he bucks, I pull him up immediately because the bucks are quite serious. They have occurred under saddle, both in the transition and in the canter. And interestingly, in a similar spot, you will notice that when he bucked, both times it was in the same spot. So firstly, with the bucking, stop the bucking, pull the horse up. You then need to urge the horse on again, because if you don't urge the horse on, he will think that he's won because you've stopped riding the horse. So that means he's bucked, you've stopped him from going forward because you've pulled him up, and then you're not making him go again. So that's a win. So once you've pulled them up and stopped them from bucking, they need to be urged on firmly. And then ideally put them back into canter and ride some transitions to get them paying attention to you, or if it's on the long reins, do transitions on the long reins to get them paying attention. So yes, you want to make them tired, you want to make them a little bit uncomfortable because they've just made you uncomfortable with the bucking, and for no good reason. As you could see with both of these bucking occurrences with this horse, there was no catalyst. One was in the transition and the other one was just for shits and giggles. Nothing happened to cause the buck. He didn't get a fright. He just went, I'm going to buck now. So we need to teach him that behaviour is inappropriate and to pay attention to us, to follow our lead, so the behaviour doesn't continue to escalate. The other interesting occurrence with this horse is he only bucks going to the right. So we're not quite sure what's going on there. However, you will notice that both times he bucked, and it's the same under saddle, he pushes out of that left shoulder to buck. So part of maintaining control over him is getting him more responsive to the outside aid so that we can stop him from pushing out of that outside shoulder. He is definitely more difficult to turn to the right and to maintain a curved line to the right, both on the long reins and under saddle. So I feel if we can start to get him straighter, then that will stop occurring. That was not supposed to happen. That was really, really naughty. So what I've done is just run the outside rein over his back now so I can get more control of that outside shoulder and stop him from pushing out of it, which is what we've actually had the fight about just then, is because he wants to barge out of the outside shoulder and I don't want him to. So this, putting it over his back, just gives me a little bit more leverage and a little bit more control. I do find him quite difficult to control that outside shoulder under saddle, but that's a lesson for a different day. This is what we're trying to achieve on the long reins. Lack of balance and straightness. So the unbalanced horse can throw in a buck or kick up or kick out going into canter because they are struggling to organise the strike-off leg and will either strike off on both hind legs at once or will strike off on the incorrect hind leg and then kick up to fix the canter lead. This is not actually bucking, but some riders misinterpret it as bucking and it's actually just pig rooting or kicking out. When your horse is unbalanced, it's generally not straight as well. Now, what I mean by straight is the horse's body from pole to tail is following the line that it's travelling on, whether that be a curved line or a straight line, and its back feet are stepping up into the footprints left by the front feet. Now, you can see with this horse here, it's not balanced. So we have put it in the cooler lunge to help it become balanced and work in self-carriage so it can follow the line that it's travelling on easily, because right now he is flexing out, overbending to the inside, striking off on whichever canter lead, or then kicking out and changing the canter lead from behind or cantering disunited. Now, what I mean by disunited is it's cantering left behind and right in front, or vice versa, it's cantering right in front and left behind. So there's actually no consistency with this horse and this disuniting in the canter. It actually disunites on both sides, it kicks out on both directions, and it's just unbalanced. So then if you add the weight of a rider to this horse's back, that will actually make it more unbalanced because he already can't work balanced on the long reins. So then he's got to try and balance himself and carry a rider. So that is a contributing factor to him kicking out. And this horse actually has a history of bucking and taking off under saddle. So to resolve this behaviour with this horse, I'm actually urging him forward to try and get him to engage his hindquarters and step under more and start to carry himself. So ideally we need him to shift his weight from the forehand back to the hindquarters to work in a more balanced frame, which the cooler lunge is helping with because the hindquarter sling will engage the hindquarters. The side reins help him to balance and carry himself in a frame. And then I'm asking him to go forward to engage the hindquarters. Once he's engaging the hindquarters, he will stop kicking up and kicking out, because in order for him to kick up or to kick out, he has to shift his weight onto his forehand. So if we can get him stepping under and become balanced and straight, he will stop kicking up. Then you just need to continue incorporating the transitions into your training. So upwards, walk to trot, trot to canter, downwards, canter to trot, trot to walk. So the horse is continuing to engage the hindquarters, plus pay attention to your aids. So you are continuing to open and develop those lines of communication. This is just 3 examples of why horses can and do buck, and a little insight into how you can incorporate the cooler lunge into your training program to help with these issues.